Hello and welcome to Creative Vitality Jam Sessions. Here we have intimate conversations with extraordinary dance and theater artists about reimagining creativity and supporting and building community. CVJS and I walk in solidarity and as allies for equality, justice, and respect. Black Lives Matter. And President elect Joe Biden and Vice President elect Kamala Harris preach unity and healing. Let's join them. I'm Helen Pickett, and today's guest is Edwaard Liang, Artistic Director of BalletMet. Edward and I have known each other since 2005. Welcome, Edward.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so happy this could work. I know you are an artistic director in this time, extremely busy. You probably also have Zoom eyes and Zoom fatigue. So thank you for joining.
My pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning. Edward, do you prefer Edward or Eddie? What do you prefer?
I prefer anything. I'm really open because my company calls me Edward. Colleagues that have known me from New York City Ballet call me Ed. Some people at NDT, you call me Eddie,
Okay.
and it really depends on their relationship to me and who was introducing me at the first time.
Okay. Okay. Well, I know you have a close relationship with Bill. So what does Bill call you?
He calls me Edward.
Then by proxy, I will call you Edward.
Okay, great.
Because actually, if we met, I say 2005, because the first time you and I met was actually at Aspen Santa Fe Ballet, and you were setting and coaching the Slingerland Pas de Deux. Yeah, because it was with Pedal.
No, well, Pedal was we shared a piece. Were they doing Slingerland? Is that what they brought?
Yeah. The first time I did Pedal, when it was in its first iteration,
right,
was with Slingerland Pas de Deux.
Oh, that's right. I came to yes. That was right after I helped Bill continue to stage Slingerland. So,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so long ago. That was our first time. I remember you walking into the van because I think we landed around the same time, and the taxi picked us both up. So we were riding into our hotel in town together.
Yes. And actually, I'm wrong. I said 2005. It isn't. It's 2007. It's 2007.
Yeah.
Because I only started choreographing in 2005, and then Aspen Santa Fe Ballet bought that nugget from the New York Choreographic Institute that I made for Boston.
Oh my
and they
God.
bought that nugget to become Pedals. So 2007, that's actually when we met.
It's such a great piece, whether it was the first iteration that I saw in Aspen or now that you've changed it for different companies, because it's gone in quite a few companies now.
Yeah, I think it's been sold, I think it's 8 times now, but it's that I will change, I think we're similar in this, that because you're a choreographer, you might set a piece, but you see the person in front of you and you will shift things for that person in front of you. The thing that stayed the same is the color wash. That's the thing that actually really shifted Pedal, was those big colorful rooms. But the choreography, yeah, I have changed for each company, but the basic structure is there, because the music's telling me really what to do there, so yeah. So Edward, I'm so happy you're here. I always start with this first question for everybody. What part of the world are you in right now?
I am in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I said in the United States.
In the United States, got it. And so you're with your company right now?
Yes. right now, the company doesn't come back until, well, actually, our season doesn't start until January. So right now, it's just a lot of preparation. Our second company, BalletMet 2, started in October. So we've been creating new work and teaching them rep and filming lecture demonstrations so that we can send it out to the school system. They are primarily are a second company where they are part of the company when the season happens, but they have their own rep and they go out into the community to do lecture demonstrations. And what's great about it is that they get to learn not only how to interact with audience members, but public speaking and memorizing lines, because there's a whole, I guess, program where they introduce different pieces themselves and they have certain interactions. And all of this, I guess, performance is geared towards educating our community and educating young students on dance and how broad it is. So we do classical ballet, we do contemporary, and we do modern pieces so that it gives them a big spectrum and scope of what dance means.
That's, I mean, the first thing that I thought of is what a wonderful opportunity that the second company has the focus right now. I mean, you know, they're having work made on them. They're out in the community representing your company. And, you know, that's a huge, I would say, if I was a second company member, what an honor, because, and what a focus, because normally, you know, there is a focus, of course, on them, but the focus is also on the main, or perhaps mainly on the main company. And with all of this, I love your idea of broad spectrum education as to what ballet can be. That is just, I mean, yes, of all the ways ballet can be. That's beautiful.
And it's super important, especially in cities that are not coastal cities with being a big, what you would consider a large ballet company. And how we exist and why we exist is because of our community. And so it's really kind of paying it forward, but also keeping us sustainable, because these young students and our community in the future. So they will hopefully be our audience, our patrons, and whether they stay in Columbus, Ohio, or they move to outside of the US or stay in the US, that they're engaged in the arts. So
yeah, it is paying it forward. It's laying that ground to create younger audience lovers, younger dance lovers. Yeah, beautiful. So I'd like to start with a trajectory in regards to approach. You started as a freelance choreographer. Then in 2013, you were appointed artistic director of BalletMet. You are a choreographer and a director. And that used to be more common here in the States, and it's far less. So that's really interesting to me, because I have all kinds of opinions. I want to let you speak here, but these very different positions bring two very different approaches to leadership and to creative process. Can you go into the differences and the similarities between these two positions? Have you found your coaching within choreography has shifted through? Okay, that's another big question. Let's start with the first one. Can you go into the differences and the similarities between these two positions?
Yeah, first, Helen, this is a really brilliant question. And I will start with the similarities, and then I'll go into the differences. I think the similarities is the fact that when you are a artistic leader or a leader of any organization, the first and foremost is looking at what would benefit the organization, whether it's the staff, the dancers, the community. If you're talking about finances, budget, the business structure, the mission and the vision. So we really are a facilitator for the wants and needs for the organization. And as an artistic director, there are different, everyone has a different approach to leadership and style. The reason why I decided to take on and be artistic director is that I was very curious and I guess ambitious to want to have some impact and to learn and grow as an individual and as an artist. And meaning individual is understand how to navigate, whether it's meetings or budgeting or fundraising, and seeing a company and helping it continue to grow in the trajectory of not just exactly what you want, but what serves the mission and vision. So that is, I think, where they're very similar. And I hope that artistic directors that choreograph or choreographic artistic directors, the ones that I have met, I think are very much in alignment with that, because gone are the days where if you are a choreographer that starts a company, that is one thing. But if you take over a company, that's a whole different culture and mission and vision. So the similarities are where we try to plan rep and look at how it facilitates the look, the feel, the uniqueness, hopefully, and create repertoire and a career for the dancers that decide to sign on to the company that you serve. So all artistic directors are contacting, and whether it is programming already choreographed works or asking choreographers to come and create on the dancers that are in the company. So I think that where the similarities are that kind of high level, but if you go a little bit lower, style-wise, artistic directors are very different, whether they're choreographic or not, is that some people are interested and have a knack for whether it is fundraising or they just like to be in the studio and start coaching. Really depends on, I think, the comfort level and the interest and desire, because you are very much split into multiple areas. You have to, you're running the organization with the executive director. And sometimes artistic directors are CEOs where they run the whole thing. And they have a general manager that actually helps the CEO facilitate, but the general manager answers to the artistic director, where the artistic director answers to the board. Okay. I think that style-wise, we're all different in our background and our aesthetic and what we think is going to best serve the community. And for me, this is my 8th season as an artistic director, believe it or not.
So fast, right?
It is. I like to be very strategic in my programming to bring the community along on a journey. And certain works, my community and my audience and my patrons are not ready for. And their palette might not be ready. I wouldn't have been able to bring Slingerland or -16 to Columbus, Ohio, my first year in the company as artistic director. But by our 40th anniversary, I was able to align not only relationship with the dance community here based in Columbus, Ohio, but OSU. So we had a partnership to be able to bring -16 and Bill's Slingerland here.
Beautiful.
The difference, I think, is, and I don't really know why, and maybe you can kind of chime in on this, is I don't know why the culture kind of has shifted to less choreographic artistic directors, but I guess I'm a little biased as a choreographic artistic director, and I'm a little different than artistic directors that starts companies, you know, that they started this company, or that they have a mission and vision where it's primarily their work.
Yeah.
I don't have that aesthetic, and I don't have the desire. One, I don't think that my work will be able to, and not just trying to be humble, I don't think my work will be able to satisfy enough for any artist for their whole career. And that's just my perception. Some dancers and artists have dedicated their whole career to an individual choreographer. And
well, can I say one thing about that? I wonder if part of the reason why you don't feel comfortable is because you actually, I mean, look at the places you worked in. You worked at New York City Ballet, right? And you had this voice, this strong voice of Balanchine and Jerome Robbins and of course Bill, right? He came there, right? And other voices, Martins. And then you went to NDT with Jiří Kilian, right? Was he? Yeah. And so you worked with Jiří, and you had these people that did primarily build companies from their voice. So I guess my comment is, and you know, I worked also for this voice that shifted so much as Balanchine, as Jiří, you know, shifted so much in the dance world. And when I first started, I also had the same feelings, like, well, you know, this, if I ever aspire to being a director, you know, I want to make work as you do, but it needs to be a round idea. And part of it for me, and this is, I guess, the crux of my opinion, is that I also thought, and it's not a good thought, but I thought, after working for someone like Bill Forsyth, how could I ever build a company out of solely my work? You know, I mean, that's why I say it's not a great thought to think that way. Simply because it's just, you know, I mean, they're two different planets. Bill Forsyth is Bill Forsyth, and he did create a movement. And those things, those people are game changers. They don't come around that often, right? But also, let's look at the climate. He was in Europe. There was state funding. So to try to go to the idea of, as to why I think there was this huge shift in the country, I think more and more funding went away as far as state funding for our companies. And there was a period of time where choreographer, director, that was the thing. Look at the Christensen brothers. I mean, that's in San Francisco Ballet. Look all over the country.
Joffrey, with Arpino, to you know, it's definitely interesting to see how dance, especially in the United States, ebbs and flows. But with you and I, we're very similar in terms of that being an artistic director and artist, we really, of course, we want to create work that fulfills us as an artist, but I've seen your work and I've seen dancers dance your work where they're a part of the algorithm and they're a part of the mix, because it's not just to facilitate your wants and desires as an artist, but the steps that in the combinations of steps with the music, what we do, you can see that it brings the dancer in. It's also about fulfilling them.
Yes.
It's this, what is that word? I keep on forgetting about it, but it's the spiraling circle of artistry. And it's,
a gyre is a spiral, or
I'll try to remember it, but anyways, it's this spiral where basically one feeds each other, including the audience. So if the choreographer is inspired by the dancer, inspired by the vision, and the dancer is inspiring them, both will be able to inspire the audience, and then it goes back and forth. And that's the beauty of live theater. That is the beauty of being able to remember that we are human beings having a human experience and having live energy. Yeah. And it is something that I feel very passionate about, is being able to bring choreographers that this community hasn't seen or experienced, but also for my dancers and the artists, however long that they decide to be with BalletMet. I hope for a long time, but this is a more and more, potentially more of a transient business where, I think that artists should have the capacity to taste and be fulfilled and try as much as possible, because their careers are very finite compared to ours now. But I'm lucky where this is going to sound a little, well, anyways, it's going to sound what it's going to sound like, but I'm lucky where I'm not using BalletMet's platform as some place for me to exercise my choreographic wants and needs. I'm very lucky where I still have choreographic commissions, and that I get to go out and choreograph and decide when is the right time for me to leave the company. And usually in the first 2 years, I only had stagers stage my ballets, but after I got a little bit more comfortable, I usually accept 1 or 2 new creations a year into the summertime where BalletMet is off. And then I would be able to pop in and out for setting ballets. Okay. So I've somehow been able to balance out my career as a choreographer where I am not using the platform of this company to continue to create work.
Right. Well, so as a choreographer, what devices do you utilize to create your choreographic worlds? So I'm going to weave in that other part of the question because I think it fits more here, Edward. So what devices do you utilize to create your choreographic worlds? So for example, how would you start a process? And then within that question, that coaching that because I know you love to coach as well, the coaching, how's the device of coaching, how does that shift in your work since you've been a director? Is there a shift in that device with your company? Now, see, you kind of covered this because you know the dancers very intimately in your company as artists, right? And then perhaps in a choreographic commission, it might be a new company where you don't know the dancers as well. So I guess that is part of the question. Has your coaching shifted because of your placement as a director with a core group of dancers? That's one part of the question. And the other one is, what devices do you utilize to create your choreographic worlds? And an example of a start of a process.
I don't really have one way of starting to create. I don't know about you, Helen, but I kind of ran into choreography. It's not something that I was really interested in until I was kind of nudged to do so in Holland. And what was great about NDT is that it creates such a creative atmosphere, probably very similar to working with Bill and all the monster artists that you all were at in Frankfurt. But it is just, let's see how things go. But for me, because I come from the house of Balanchine and Rob, that it's music. It's really music that starts first. And I'm very similar to you, where exactly what you said is that the music tells me what to do. And it kind of guides me on the pictures and thematically and emotions. I guess I do have another, device, is that, at least for myself and the dancers, as I work, I usually like to tell a story internally. And beyond that, I think the music already will tell me what the story is going to be. When I listen to the music over and over again, whether washing dishes or doing laundry or just, sitting quiet and listening to the music, it guides me. It gives me pictures. And then that's kind of really what the process is. Most of the time, I don't like to start with any steps or even choreographic sentences before I go into the studio. I did that in the very beginning.
Yeah.
I think all of us, when we first start, we're less fearless in just jumping into a studio, and it didn't feel, and I didn't come up with what I liked, and it felt contrived.
Yes.
And it felt that it belonged to me versus the dancers that I'm choreographing for. Yeah. So my first forays were a little bit more stylized, I guess, and to my body versus to the dancers' bodies. So I've kind of changed that, and I feel a little bit more comfortable that I am not going to just stand there for 45 minutes and come up with nothing. So that kind of changed. But to give you an example, a composer that just passed away recently, Ezio Basso, Maestro was very inspiring to me. He was very generous, and to me, and to a lot of choreographers, and he sent me this piece of music, his violin concerto, and he was like, I think you should try to use this piece. And we Skyped a couple of times. This was, back in the day before Zoom. And when I listened to the piece of music, I couldn't help but remember this advice, an idea my friend gave me. My friend many years ago said that she was really inspired by this video of murmurations of starling birds.
Yes.
And she sent me this video and she said, I think you should choreograph a ballet about this topic. And when I listened to this piece of music, it immediately reminded me of this idea. So then I just jumped into trying to find out as much information, not only technically, but ideas that people had about murmuration, why the starling birds did this at a certain time, technically why they're doing it, scientifically, how many, what is their navigation system, how do they do these patterns without hitting any one of each other. So I created this idea and the premise that I don't know if the dancers were actually really birds or just these creatures, and that they would come to this particular sacred place at dusk, and they would do these patterns not only to potentially find their mate, but it was a dance or a flight for God or the universe or whatever is the source that we all believe in. And that's kind of how the music sounded to me. And that ballet was commissioned by Houston Ballet 2013, right before I became artistic director. And so that's kind of a process that's how it started, but every piece is going to be a little bit different. And especially if the artistic director has ideas, and if you're being commissioned to create a ballet, whether it's a story ballet or that the artistic director has already commissioned 2 pieces and you're the new work. So you need to balance out the program a little bit, whether musically or thematically. So every new piece or project is a little different.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I as far as like wanting each process and each project to be different, and very, very yes to the music, yes to the ideas that come before, and then very big yes to the human beings in front of me in the studio that present themselves, because that is a huge part of the puzzle, as you were just saying as well. And I also, and plus, you know, in this world, infinitely curious. I mean, how much fodder is there out there for us to create from? I mean, why would you want to, you know, have the same process, right? It's just, it's just so much wonder, and just that image, and how I was mesmerized when I lived in Frankfurt with those starlings, and the way the color shifts. I mean, you are witnessing, there's an awe in that, in witnessing that natural event. You know, I was in the mountains in northern Thailand. With my husband, we were on a motorcycle tour, and at one point we had to get off because I don't know if you've ever ridden a motorcycle, but your butt starts to hurt a lot, at least as passenger. And we got off, and I had to stretch my legs, and I just stood up. He was doing something, and I just looked up, and I saw this amazing vegetation. And I thought, the thought that came to me, and it's the same thought with the starlings, is nature doesn't try. Nature is. And to take inspiration from that point, like you just said, instead of trying to recreate something, just try to get what it is about the energy from that nature that you're witnessing. Whether it's like a tree that is covered in aerial vines or aerial roots, and you think, I mean, it's choreography, you know, when you look at things like that. And that, so I like you, am in awe of the natural as far as inspiration, and the natural also in the rhythm of the music. The you know, what, you know, like you said, I also started feeling contrived because in the early days, I also made work because I was just simply so nervous to go in without anything. And then, like you, I was like, but this doesn't feel like it's an actual creative event that I'm creating with. Yeah, yeah. Beautiful, Edward. Just beautiful. Thank you. So you danced with New York City Ballet and Nederlands Dans Theater, two iconic companies with strong, iconic styles. And you wrote, you found your love for choreography, as you mentioned, while at NDT. So you mentioned briefly, but you said you ran into it. So my question is, how was this love born? Was there a specific catalyst, which you alluded to? Did this new description of art, of an art you knew and loved, this new iteration, this new description, open up new doors for you in your dancing? Because I believe your first idea of choreography was also while you were still dancing with NDT. Am I right there? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I I just love the culture of and the feeling when a group of artists are all hungry and curious, and there's nothing more satisfying to me than being surrounded by curious, hungry, open artists. And whether you're a dancer or co-creator or a choreographer, artistic director, anybody that is a part of our field, I'm mesmerized and inspired by set designers or costume designers that have this type of mentality and desire. It's so inspiring. Even just talking about it gets my passion. Uh, it it was really their desires and that type of energy that kind of pushed me. And there was a little bit of nudging in terms of every year there's a choreographic workshop at NDT. uh, I'm not sure if it still happens anymore, but at least the time that I was there. And it was choreographers that choreographed, like anybody that was in-house or that wanted to, like major choreographers to, first time choreographers. And you choreograph on your friends, the dancers in NDT, whether it's the NDT2 if they were in town, and usually for the workshop they're in town and not on tour, or the first company. And I was a little late to the game, but I was nudged into choreographing for two of my co-workers, and we did this pas de deux called Flight. I named it Flight of Angels, to which I didn't realize it was to John Tavner, but it's the funeral march that Princess Diana for her funeral, and it is this piece of music that was so haunting that we had 4 days to create it. Oh. I went to H&M and bought this sort of white kimono dress-ish. It was on sale. It was like €9. And I told them just to, her partner, I just told them to wear the usual NDT uniform, no shirt, black pants. So, in 4 days, after work, we created this piece. It's just a pas de deux. I think it's about like 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes long. And yeah, that's how it started. And gradually, within the 4 days, I kind of realized that I enjoyed the process,
Yeah.
and that it wasn't just a fancy. That I kind of realized that it was a different perspective on what I loved, which was dancing. And to finally answer your question about coaching, which I'm sorry, I keep on like not answering that question,
Hey.
is yeah, it's completely changed my perspective on coaching. I don't know if I'm being biased, but I think choreographers that, like you and I, or any choreographers, we have been able to hone in our eye so intensely to movement that we're able to help troubleshoot other visions. And I could look at a piece, whether it's Bill's or Christopher Wheeldon's or Paul Lightfoot Saul Lyon's. I've staged their ballet at Monte Carlo. I'm able to use my choreographic eye to see exactly what they were trying to go for. And especially when you have dialogue with the choreographer that you're serving, you're able to use your technical abilities that you've developed as a choreographer and serve this other choreographer. So in that sense, I think for us, we have this bigger scope of three-dimensional thinking, maybe even beyond, because we're able to jump into our choreographic mind. We're also able to jump into the other choreographer's mind, and we're able to jump into the dancer's mind. So when you are able to harness all this information, and as you develop how to articulate these ideas and this concept and what that feeling is to be in that moment, I think we have a leg up, but I mean, that's obviously my perspective, but
I agree.
it's changed my ever since being an artistic director. Obviously, you start coaching a lot more every day, and it's helped me develop a vocabulary to be more descriptive or use different ways to communicate a feeling, a gesture, a physical movement, whether the dancer responds to a piece of music, a picture, nature, something, a story that gives them that feeling. You use all the tools in your crayon box and all these different colors to be able to give them that sense. And you know, I never was able to answer this question, but I felt like my friend asked a really critical question, is if you've never known a color and you've never been able to see a color, how would you be able to describe a color to this individual?
I totally agree.
And using all of the motions and everything that you can in your different examples, different things that we all experience, to basically imagination to illustrate that. And something else that goes in terms of coaching, that I was lucky enough to be in Hamburg and choreographing, and I was talking with John Normeyer, and he said something, and very profound to me, but he always says something very profound. He was talking about coaching, and he asked one of his partners, this was for his work, Anna Karenina, and he asked this beautiful statuesque man and this beautiful statuesque woman, when they were dancing with each other, what are your partner's eye color? And both of them were like, well, that's a weird question, brown. And he answered, he's like, no, it's not just brown. It is dark brown on the outside with brown in the center. And then it starts ombreing to a little bit of hazel and specks of gold and brown. And if you don't know that, you're not really looking at your partner. And it means that you're not connecting and truly dancing with each other. Yeah. And that really hit home to me, where coaching is not just about being specific to the choreographic maneuvers or steps. It's about how to help these artists illustrate and connect, and together or by themselves illustrate that energy. Yeah. Because really, in the end of the day, what we as artists are trying to curate and package and manipulate is energy.
Yes. And that is it, because what does the audience respond to? Energy. What do they see in the performer? Energy, perhaps, that they want, or like you said, that they have felt, that they aspire to, right? So you said many things that I totally agree with how you illustrated working with people and how approaching art. It's very tangible. You know, it's like, you know, I'm a person of the senses, and when I hear you, it's like, it's tactility. And I am totally, and I've had heated conversations about this. I feel the same about, like, as a dancer, like, if I haven't felt what it's like to be partnered, or I haven't looked at some of the men that I consider some of the best partners that I ever worked with, right? How they use their hands, the touch, with the curve of the hand, if it's soft, when this finger, like tango, directs you. I feel the same way, Edward, that because I've experienced that, because I've been through injuries as a dancer, I feel that if I didn't have that information that I have felt, you know, throughout that career as a performing artist, I don't think I would be able to be as good of a coach. And it goes along to what you were saying, like the experience, seeing your partner with the gold specks and the outline, and seeing, because that's in your eyes too. When you look at someone's eyes, you see this, like, it's not just a green eye or a brown eye. There's so much variation in that eye, and that's an individual. And all of this stuff you were saying, just, yeah, there's empathy in that, what you're saying.
Yeah. And you know what's really interesting, Helen, is that, you know, for you and I, whether we are coaching other people in not our own work, or creating for a company, or staging our own work, or coaching dancers, do you find that as you do, you're part of this business and this industry more and more, that when you're in the front of the room, sometimes I almost feel like a psychologist?
Yes.
Because the one thing as artistic director or choreographer, the one equalizer for every business, no, actually not every business, but that we work with human beings.
Yes.
And it's really our business is to be able to unlock each other and be able to unlock that thing that is in the core of us, which is human and a spiritual being.
Yes.
It's so interesting.
It is. It's infinitely interesting. Right? I mean, I think that's also the thing that, well, I can hear it in you. I love human beings.
I generally like human beings.
It's a blanket statement. Yes, there's a general, yes. Always caveats, always. So this is the, let's see. Do you have advice for young dancers on, wait, do you have advice for young dancers on how, do you have advice for young dancers on how perhaps to be in process with a choreographer?
Oh my gosh. Yes. My advice is to ask questions, to not play a role that you think that you should play, that to be alive in the studio, to be interactive, to be a part of the process as much as you can, and be collaborative. Not only will it help the choreographer create better work, but you're going to infinitely experience it differently and enjoy it, I think, more, to be a part of the process and to not be afraid, to be fearless, because every choreographer, if you feel as if you're overstepping your bounds or saying too much, I'm sure that the choreographer will tell you. And you can feel out the parameter that the artist that you're working with likes, how they like to work. But I invite young artists to, the one thing that stops us all is fear. So the best way is, you may not be able to do it right away, but to be as fearless in the studio and on stage as possible. Because, and understand, not to be too analytical, but to understand why. Why did that trigger you? Why are you scared of this? If you understand it a little bit more, you might make different choices, or it might change your perspective as an artist. So these walls and barriers that we create, are social constructs. And I mean, quite honestly, we are label making machines. I've said this before, we span the room and good, bad, yellow, green, I like this, I don't like this. And your mind doesn't stop. So quiet the mind and ask yourself what you want and what you're afraid of and why. Not that you can break the barrier right away, or that you may not decide to, but if you understand, you can make choices. And that way, these young artists are not feeling like as if they can't break through, even internally, that they are living this art and breathing this art moment to moment.
Yeah, the ephemeral, no? Not trying to hang on, right?
I guess it is an ephemeral art.
Yeah. But also, do you ever, I ask this because I do this, well, I feel out the room, but in most rooms, because I do find dancers are some of the most generous, courageous souls on this earth, right? Sometimes I bring myself into the mix, especially if it's a new company. I say, hey, we're all starting something new. there is fear in this, you know, that we are sharing together. And I say, let's push past this together. Let's push into, let's lean into, instead of, you know, like you said, that construct, the whatever social construct, whatever you've been told, whatever. Let's lean into this together, and fall down together and stand up together and twirl together. And yeah, beautiful. Oh, there's a label. Thank you. Beautiful, Edward. Okay, so these 3 questions I ask everybody. Do you have, or can you share a favorite or impactful, or both, memory from your creative life? I know there are many. One that comes up right now.
Oh my gosh. I guess typical memory that I have was just being so afraid of being fired.
Oh.
I was a super, and supers for operas or ballets. I was in the School of American Ballet, and I was asked last minute to be a super for this Balanchine ballet, his last, David's Bulmatons. And there's different deaths, these hooded beings, and all you have to do is go on stage and open this book and bring out this like feather. And of course, being such a klutz, my feather got stuck to the set, these swaths of fabric, and being so inexperienced, I didn't know what to do. So I was just stuck there, and I was supposed to leave by then. Death needed to go, but I was stuck. And I just remember after the performance, I'm glad that nobody said anything to me, but yet at the same time, I was like, oh my gosh, they're so unknown. Am I fired without even knowing? Am I ever going to get into the company? Do they know that I ruined the ballet? I don't know why, but that was the first memory that came up. It was very memorable though.
Yes. You know, I think we might all have that. When I was a student in San Francisco Ballet, I was lucky enough, there were a few of us that were chosen to be in the bigger ballets, right, to fill out the corps de ballet. And it was really, really lucky that I got to start that at 15. And I was a fairy in, well, this is how much the memory really gut punched me. I can't remember the ballet at the moment, but I was a fairy, and we had sticks. And we had to jump, saute into the circle.
Oh yes, Midsummer Night's Dream.
Midsummer, yeah, okay. So we had to jump and point the stick, you know, saute, and then saute, and
yes.
There was netting. Saute, saute. My stick is caught in the netting, and I'm literally like this, similar. In my mind, the only importance is getting the stick out of the netting, not letting the stick go, which would be, you think back, you're like, why didn't I just let the stick go? And maybe that is going to be the title of my book eventually. Why didn't I let the stick go?
But you know, I think these memories and these experiences, you know, going back to the last question that you were talking about, is I always say this, whether as our choreographer or but mostly as a dancer, is that the colleagues that you work with in these companies for years, the bond and the friendship that you create is lifelong.
Lifelong.
And you will always understand each other and hone in on each other, no matter how long you've been separated, because it's almost like comrades at arms. You've gone through a war together. These individuals know you better than you sometimes know yourself. And it's great to be able to reflect back on these bloopers and memories, whether you were good and or you've been promoted, or that there was a premiere, or the highs and lows of this career, that it's these are beautiful memories that are so unique.
Yeah, and can also bring laughter and joy to each other.
Oh, yes.
That's not letting go of the stick or your feather. These are like all of us that started at some point have these new person experiences, and you know, and then we can commiserate with the young person that does, like, you know, it's okay. I've been there.
Some have done it more than others.
Yes.
But everyone
I have fallen more than others. Do you have an insight or daily inspiration? You said something about quieting the mind earlier, but do you have an insight or daily inspiration that you can share about living a creative life?
Gratitude. I think that especially I think it's poignant now with what's happening with the world and this pandemic, but it's gratitude, living in gratitude, because there's always going to be ups and downs in this industry, in this life. As a choreographer, there's a lot of comparisons and there's a lot of insecurities that we all have as human beings. But if I know for myself, if I'm able to hold on to gratitude and being grateful that I am a part of this industry, or I have been a part of this industry, and that I've lived a pathway or walked in a pathway of creativity and being an artist, then I'm happy and I'm content. So gratitude.
Yeah. Yes. In supporting and building a more equitable dance community, what are some specific daily practices that we could be active with, in your opinion?
Oh my gosh, I think it goes in conjunction. Sorry, what you brought up before, and what we've talked about is being open, and being open to learning, and being understanding that we all have blind spots. And what are those? And if we have blind spots, what does our neighbor have? And what do we need to learn from each other so that we are better towards each other? And I hope that, you know, these past 8-9 months, that as a society in the United States, that we grow from it, and that we learn from each other and learn how to be more equitable and to really see each other beyond color, race, or culture. And that, you know, it's not easy, but
it could be.
It could be. And if Helen, if we just put down the stick.
If we just let go of the stick.
I think that should be the answer to everything.
Let go of the feather and put down the stick. Oh man, Edward, what a joyful, here's some labels, but I gotta say, what a joyful, inspirational, generous conversation with you today. Inspiring. Such a joy to sit down and hear you speak about a profession that love and adoration and passion just come out of every part of you for your art, and it's inspiring, and it's inspiring to sit with you. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah. I want to steer people to find out more about you as a choreographer and about BalletMet. So, of course, people can go to the BalletMet website to find out what's going on. And do you have a website? Do you have an Instagram handle where we can find out more about your choreography?
Yeah, my BalletMet website is www.balletmet.org. And I used to have a website, edwardliang.com, but I let that lapse.
Okay.
And you can go on Facebook. It's Edward Liang. And same thing with Instagram. It's at Edward Liang.
Good.
All one word.
Okay. And of course, in the description box below the video, you will find a short bio from Edward. So there's a little bit of information there. We have new guests every week. Our next session, and you will know this woman, is with Margaret Tracey, the director of the Boston Ballet School. And amazing Margaret, yes. And now my thanks. I want to thank Gracie Spina, intern extraordinaire. Thank you so much. Every time we do these sessions, you have it all zipped up. You've let go of the stick, Gracie. I want to thank my beautiful, resilient, foundation building dance community. You have given me so much in my life, and I strive to pay it forward every day. And again, Edward, thank you so much. We are reimagining creativity, and thank you so much for everything you give. Yeah.
Thank you, Helen.
Bye.